Hello everybody, my name is Zoe Rebekah. Welcome back to my channel. And today's video, I'm going to be talking about coping with loneliness. And loneliness is a topic that I'm unfortunately very familiar with. And I felt like this was a really important topic for me to discuss, as it's something that I know a lot about and I feel like I could help a lot of people out with. And as you all know, I moved out of my parents' house. I moved across the country from Pennsylvania to Florida in September of 2023 with my boyfriend to attend college at Full Sail University here so I could get my college degree and get my life started. And overall, I'm really proud of myself for taking this step and, pushing through it even when things get difficult and even when I feel like I can't do it anymore. I always wind up pushing through it and I'm really proud of myself for that. When it feels completely unbearable, I still have to push through it and I'm really proud of myself for all of that. And I plan to continue to manage everything and take care of myself and work hard throughout the rest of the time that I'm here and ultimately throughout the rest of my life. But with that being said, one of the biggest obstacles that I have to face on a daily basis is the feeling of loneliness and being physically alone. And being physically alone most definitely contributes to my feelings of loneliness. Alone and lonely are different things. Alone is being literally by yourself, and lonely is a feeling of isolation. And I'm alone physically a lot of the time, and that contributes to my feelings of loneliness a lot. But with that being said, I've learned a lot about how to deal with those feelings of loneliness, how to get myself out of feeling lonely even if I am alone. And as somebody with borderline personality disorder and lots of other really pleasant mental health issues, I think that I've always found it both difficult to be alone and to deal with the feelings of loneliness. I've also found it difficult to maintain relationships and to be by myself for an extended period of time. And it's something that I've learned to have to deal with, but it still can be very difficult sometimes. And I think the older I've gotten and since I've moved out, I've really been forced to hone in on working on that, and I've learned a lot about it, and I am going to share that all with you today. As I've gotten older, I've had to really work on coping with being alone and managing my feelings of loneliness and getting through really hard times with my own self-motivated actions to improve upon these things. And I've definitely felt some of the most lonely moments of my life since I've moved out here, and I've spent a lot of time by myself here, and it's gotten really hard. But also with having to go through those really hard, lonely, intense moments, I've learned a lot about how to deal with them. Since I've aged, matured, grown, I've learned a lot about coping with loneliness, occupying my mind, staying distracted, and what specifically works for me. And everybody is different and different things work for different people for sure, but I'm just sharing what a very mentally ill person does to deal with my problems. And I think if it works for me, then it has to work for other people too, because it's been really hard for me to find what really works for me. So if I say that it works for me, then there's a good chance it'll work for you too. And like I said, everybody is different and different people feel the impact of loneliness at different levels, and different people know how to deal with it better than others. And some people are just more affected by loneliness, and some people have more people around them to get rid of those feelings of loneliness. Some people don't have as many people as options to reach out to like I do, and everybody deals with it in their own way. But like I said, I'm kind of an expert, so listen to me. And just to start out with, I think that it's super important, especially if you are somebody who struggles with mental health issues, anxiety specifically, that it's so important to start each day with a list of daily self-motivated tasks. And what I mean by that, like what I do is at the beginning of each day, at the very beginning of the day, right when I wake up, I will get myself some coffee and literally just start writing tasks, activities, giving myself options of things to do. Because for me, I find myself falling into the pit of loneliness most often when I'm not distracted and I'm not doing something to keep my mind going and to keep myself busy. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be getting something done like I was talking about in my last video. I don't need to be necessarily doing something to get something done at all times, but even if it's something simply like watching a YouTube video, listening to music, watching TV, going out, taking out the trash, doing laundry, whatever, it's something rather than me sitting there stewing in my thoughts and starting to feel the loneliness. So I just think that it's super important not to write yourself like an entire list of like a bajillion things that you could do, because that's just overwhelming. And when I write too many things for myself to do, I just feel like disappointed that I didn't get as much done of it as I felt like I could have, even though it was never really a realistic list to begin with. So I just write myself like 10 things maybe at most of a list of activities or tasks that I need to accomplish or that I want to accomplish, and I will check those things off as I do them, and it will always give me some sort of structure for the day. And I think that having that structure, at least for me, is really beneficial for managing anxiety, loneliness, or any other kind of negative emotion that I wind up just overthinking about while I'm sitting here stewing alone. And I don't want to sit here and stew alone. I want to not stew. I want to keep my mind going, because that's what's helpful for me. And that's what's going to help me feel accomplished. It's what's going to help me feel confident, and it's what's going to help me feel less lonely. I also use times, honestly, that are dark or lonely. I use these times as moments of creative inspiration sometimes. I sometimes find that if I channel dark thoughts, feelings, moments, situations into creative work, into writing, music, poetry, videos, whatever it is, that if I'm turning something that feels like horrible into something that might have made that situation worth anything, then I'm gonna do that. Like, I will try my best to turn any sort of negative situation, for example, feeling lonely, I will write a poem or a song about that, or I'll write some sort of story or article about that, and that makes me feel like that really shitty, dark moment allowed me to create something out of that, and it makes it somewhat worth having to go through that, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes to get out of my darkest moments, I have to really feel what I'm feeling and use those feelings to create creative work, do something productive, and or learn something from the experience. And like I said, it makes those situations feel worth it when you're going into it with that mindset. And if you're able to give these dark situations or feelings a purpose when you didn't feel like that was possible at first, you'll definitely feel a lot better. I can tell you that right now. And it's also really important to, confide in people that you can confide in. And I feel like a lot of the time, yes, I am often alone. I don't have many friends. I live across the country as my family. I only live with my boyfriend who's at work all the time. I don't have a lot of options for people I can confide in, truthfully. But the truth is that I do have people. I have my family. I have a couple friends I could reach out to. I have my boyfriend, even though he's often at work, he still lives here, and when he's here, he wants to hang out with me or talk to me usually. And sometimes I feel like I like to tell myself that I have no one and that I'm alone, just in order to use that as an excuse not to address a problem or talk about it or deal with it, because I do have a family I could reach out to. Even if they're not physically here with me, I can call or text them. Same thing with my two friends. And even if Theo's at work, I can still probably call or text him. Even if he doesn't answer right away, if I'm having a problem, I can reach out to him because he's my boyfriend and I live with him. I like to make excuses for myself not to deal with problems, and I think one of those excuses I have is trying to tell myself that I'm alone and that I don't have anyone to talk to. I don't have anyone to deal with these problems with. And the truth is that I have to deal with a lot of things on my own, but there's some things that I should not have to deal with on my own. I have to be able to accept help from people, and I have to be able to reach out to my loved ones, to the people that care about helping me, and I need to be able to accept the help that they're offering, and I need to be open-minded about it. And I feel like closed-mindedness often leads to loneliness in a lot of different ways. I have to become more willing to accept the help that everyone offers me. And like I said, even though people aren't physically with me, that's what phones are for. And even though it's not exactly the same thing, it is something. It's better than stewing alone with my thoughts. And like I was talking about earlier, just simply things like watching your comfort shows, your comfort movies, listening to your favorite music, your favorite artist, reading your favorite book, just things that provide you with familiarity and comfort can serve as catalysts for grounding yourself, or to get yourself back into a more clear, blank slate mindset that isn't like dirtied with all of these negative thoughts. When you can use something like a comfort show or movie or song or something to wipe your mind clean of what you're thinking about and get really lost in the story and just feel really enamored by the characters and the plot and the setting of the story you're watching or reading or listening to, whatever. If you really can just focus on that, and it's a comfort show or movie and you're familiar and you're comfortable with it, then it can really pull a lot of negative thoughts out of your head and just allow you to have more of a fresh, clean slate in your mind. And I think that's really important sometimes when I'm feeling like really, really overwhelmed, or I'm really anxious, I'm really depressed, whatever the emotion is, it's really intense. I have to do things that provide me with familiarity and comfort in order to pause and get out of that place. And then whatever brought on that anxiety or that overwhelm or that depression, I can go and face it with a more fresh perspective and a more rational mindset, if that makes sense. So those are some things that I do personally to help me with dealing with loneliness. And there's a lot of things that bring on feelings of loneliness. Social media in particular, I want to just touch on that real quick. Social media, I know that you probably hear this a lot, but I feel like it's important to always remind you guys that social media is a highlight reel. It's not real. You know, a lot of what people post on Instagram, specifically Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, they're highlight reel. They're not posting the bad stuff in their lives. So trust me when I say everybody is fighting a battle that you know nothing about, and what people post on social media isn't their entire life story. It is the highlights of their life. And I just feel like that's really important to remind you guys, because sometimes I find myself feeling more lonely after I scroll through like Instagram, or I go on Twitter, or I go on Snapchat or whatever, and I see friends hanging out with each other, or I see girls that I think are prettier than me. I just see people hanging out with each other, parties, and just things that I would love to have in my life, and I find myself comparing myself. And I've done that my whole life, and a lot of girls do that, but I've gone through periods where I simply did not go on Instagram or social media at all because it was so damaging to my mental health and made me feel so lonely. And since the first time I ever got rid of social media for a couple years, for about 2 years, I didn't have Snapchat or Instagram, and it made me feel left out in some ways, but at the same time, it also really helped me feel less lonely and less comparing myself to everyone else. And since that happened, I have established a much healthier balance for myself, and I don't go on Instagram and scroll for hours. Like, I will go on Instagram, but I'm not gonna sit there and scroll for more than like 15 minutes, because then I start to feel things and I don't want to. So I just think that it's really important to figure out what works for you, and to really hone in on the things that really work for you, and to do things that make you feel happy and make you feel fulfilled, and get rid of toxic environments, get rid of toxic people, do what improves your confidence. It's okay to feel confident. It's okay to make yourself your top priority. It's not selfish. And most importantly, take care of yourself and focus on your own life, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing. So basically that's gonna be it for this video, and I really hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you have any other video suggestions for me, please let me know in the comments. I'm super excited for all the new content to come this year. And yeah, so I'm gonna end this video here. If you like to give it a big thumbs up, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Share this video and my channel to those who think might be interested, and leave me comments down below. Make sure you guys check out all my other videos on here. Make sure you guys check out my music that's been released. I'm Zoe, I'm Lonely, Retrospection, and This Relationship. Make sure you guys get copies of my memoir, Battles on the Borderline, and my poetry book and erotic anthology, and my psychology. Make sure you check out my podcast, Ebbs and Flows with Zoe Frenchman, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other streaming platform. Make sure you guys check out all my other social medias. My Snapchat is Zoe Frenchman, my Instagram is Zoe R Frenchman, my Twitter is Zoe Rebekah F, and my TikTok is Zoe RF420. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. Bye!